What if I told you that right now there are people walking this earth who know with absolute certainty exactly when they're going to die, not because they're sick, not because a doctor told them, but because their soul has an internal clock that began its final countdown? What if that elderly woman who suddenly started calling everyone she loved to say goodbye for no reason wasn't being dramatic? She was hearing an alarm that only 5% of people can detect. What if the healthy man who told his family, "I have 4 months left," and died peacefully in his sleep, exactly 4 months later, wasn't experiencing a dark premonition? He was simply reading a timer his soul had set before he was even born? I'm Edgar Cayce. For over 40 years, through thousands of trance readings accessing the Akashic records, I witnessed something both mysterious and deeply comforting. Every soul carries within it a sacred chronometer, an internal clock that knows down to the approximate month when your journey here will complete. And here's what most people don't understand. When that clock begins its final countdown, usually 3 to 6 months before departure, it doesn't announce itself with terror or darkness. It whispers with peace, with completion, with a gentle knowing that your work here is almost done. Today I'm going to share the 5 unmistakable signs that a soul's internal timer has activated, not to frighten you, but to help you recognize something profound. These signs aren't harbingers of tragedy. They're sacred gifts that allow people to complete their journey with grace, say proper goodbyes, and cross over with nothing left undone. Let me tell you about something I witnessed in 1934 that forever changed how I understood death's timing. A man named Robert came to me for a reading. He was 55 years old, in perfect health, successful in business, deeply loved by his family, but he'd been experiencing something that troubled everyone around him. For 3 weeks he'd been telling people, "I'm going to leave in 4 months." Not "I might die," not "I have a bad feeling," but with calm certainty. "I have 4 months left, and I need to get my affairs in order." His wife thought he was having a breakdown. His doctor found absolutely nothing wrong. But Robert couldn't shake the knowing. He felt compelled to update his will, write letters to his children, organize all his business documents, and spend time with everyone who mattered to him. His family begged me to tell him he was wrong, that he was healthy and had many years ahead. During the reading, I accessed his soul's records, and there it was, clear as day. His internal alarm had activated. His soul knew its departure date with precision, not because of illness or accident that could be seen yet, but because before birth, his soul had agreed to a specific timeline, and that timeline was approaching its natural completion. I told Robert's family the truth. He wasn't mentally ill. He was hearing something most people never detect, the gentle notification from his own soul that it was time to prepare for transition. Robert spent those 4 months in the most beautiful way. He reconciled old grudges. He told everyone he loved exactly how he felt. He completed projects he'd been postponing. He made peace with his life. 4 months later, exactly as he'd said, Robert went to sleep one evening and simply didn't wake up. No pain, no struggle, no disease. His heart just stopped, as if someone had pressed a button that said, "Time complete." His wife told me later, through tears of both grief and wonder, he wasn't afraid at the end. He was at peace. He knew. And because he knew, he made those final months the most meaningful of our entire marriage. That's when I understood. The soul's internal clock isn't cruel. It's merciful. Here's what I discovered in the Akashic records that brings comfort to everyone who's ever feared sudden, unprepared death. Your soul doesn't leave this world by accident or surprise. It operates on a sacred schedule set before you were even born. Think of it like this. When your soul agreed to incarnate, it didn't just select parents and life lessons. It also set approximate departure points, windows of time when the soul's work would be complete and return home would be appropriate. Most souls establish 3 to 5 potential exit points throughout a lifetime. These are like scheduled flights back home. Your soul can choose to take the first available flight, or if there's more work to complete, it can stay for the later options. But here's the beautiful part. 3 to 6 months before reaching one of these exit points, your soul activates an internal notification system, a gentle alarm that says preparation time has begun. It's not unlike the timer on an oven. The oven doesn't suddenly explode when the food is done. It begins beeping, giving you time to finish what you're doing, put on oven mitts, and remove what's inside with care and intention. Your soul's internal clock works the same way. It begins sending signals, subtle at first, then increasingly clear, that allow you to complete your earthly business, say meaningful goodbyes, make peace with your journey, and prepare for transition with dignity. Through thousands of readings, I documented that only about 5% of people consciously hear this alarm, but everyone receives the signal. The difference is in the reception. Some people are so tuned into their soul's frequency that when the alarm activates, they hear it clearly and respond accordingly. Others receive the signal subconsciously. Their behavior changes without them understanding why, and many ignore it entirely, caught up in the noise of daily life. But your soul knows. It's been counting down since the moment you were born, and when it's time to prepare for departure, it will make sure you know if you're willing to listen. Let me show you the 5 signs that appear when someone's internal timer has activated. These aren't symptoms of disease, they're not mental instability, they're sacred indicators that a soul is approaching completion. If you've ever known someone who seemed to know their time was coming, or if you're recognizing these signs in yourself, I want you to understand, this isn't darkness. This is your soul's love for you, giving you time to finish well. Hit that like button if you're ready to understand one of life's most profound mysteries with compassion instead of fear. The 5 signs. Your soul is counting down to departure. Sign number 1, the completion urge. The first sign appears as a sudden, unexplainable urgency to get everything in order, not because anything seems wrong, but because something deep inside demands completion. People experiencing this sign will suddenly feel compelled to update their will, organize important documents, clean out closets, label photographs, write letters to loved ones, and resolve long-standing issues that they've been putting off for years. It's not morbid thinking, it's not depression, it's a powerful internal drive that says, now is the time to complete what needs completing. Let me share a case that demonstrates this perfectly. In 1937, a young man of only 28 came to my attention through his concerned family. He had suddenly, without any apparent reason, become obsessed with creating a will and putting all his affairs in perfect order. He wasn't sick, he had no reason to believe anything was wrong, but he couldn't stop himself from organizing everything, as if preparing for a journey he couldn't consciously see yet. His family thought he was having some sort of breakdown and asked me to do a reading. When I accessed his records, I saw it immediately. His soul's alarm had activated. He was in what I call phase 1, the completion urge. His soul knew that within approximately 5 months he would reach an exit point, and it was ensuring he left nothing unresolved. I gently confirmed to his family that he wasn't mentally ill, he was hearing his soul's voice clearly. 5 months later, he died in a car accident that seemed sudden to everyone else, but his soul had known and had given him time to prepare. Because he listened to that urge, he left behind organized affairs, written expressions of love to everyone who mattered, and a family that, while grieving, had no unfinished business with him. The key elements of the completion urge. First, it comes suddenly and feels urgent, not like normal planning, but like an imperative that can't be ignored. Second, it's comprehensive, not just one thing, but a drive to complete everything: legal matters, relationships, possessions, unfinished projects. Third, it brings peace when followed. People report feeling lighter and calmer as they complete each task, as if checking items off a sacred list. If you or someone you love is experiencing this, don't dismiss it. Honor it. Help them complete what their soul is asking them to complete. This isn't preparing for death, it's preparing for a peaceful transition. Sign number 2, the goodbye circuit. The second sign is perhaps the most touching. People begin reaching out to everyone significant in their life, especially those they haven't spoken to in years, with an unexplainable need to connect, to say hello, to make peace, to simply be in contact one more time. It's like their soul is running through an internal list, making sure no relationship ends without proper acknowledgement. Family members often describe this as unusual behavior. Mum suddenly started calling people she hadn't talked to in decades. Dad drove 6 hours to visit his estranged brother out of nowhere. She kept saying, "I just wanted to hear your voice," to everyone. This isn't random sentimentality. It's the soul's wisdom ensuring that when departure comes, no one is left thinking, "I wish I'd said goodbye." In 1941, I learned of a grandmother who, 2 months before suffering a fatal stroke, began what her family called a goodbye tour. She visited each of her grandchildren individually, spent quality time with them, and kept saying phrases like, "I wanted to see you and I came to say how much I love you." Her family thought she was just being sweet, maybe feeling sentimental in her old age. But when she died 2 months later, they realized with stunning clarity she'd been saying goodbye. Her soul knew before her body showed any symptoms. When they asked me about it later, I explained, she had been in phase 2, the goodbye circuit. Her internal clock had activated and she was responding to its guidance with perfect trust, even if she didn't consciously understand what she was doing. The key elements of the goodbye circuit. First, the outreach feels urgent and unusual. People go out of their way, travel distances, overcome years of silence to make contact. Second, the conversations often include expressions of love, gratitude, and closure that feel deeper than normal social contact. Third, there's often a subtle finality to the interactions. "Take care of yourself. I'm so glad we got to talk. Remember that I love you." Phrases that, in hindsight, sound like farewell. If someone in your life is suddenly reaching out to everyone, spending time with people they normally wouldn't prioritize, or saying things that sound like goodbyes disguised as hellos, pay attention. Their soul may be giving you the gift of conscious closure. Sign number 3, the life review, dreams. The third sign occurs during sleep. People begin having vivid, sequential dreams where they relive significant moments from their life in chronological order, as if their soul is reviewing the entire journey from beginning to approaching end. These aren't normal dreams. They're extraordinarily clear, emotionally powerful, and they follow a pattern: childhood memories, then adolescence, then young adulthood, moving forward through time like watching a documentary of your own life. Many people wake from these dreams with a sense of completion, as if they've been reviewing their soul's curriculum and recognizing what they learned from each chapter. Through the Akashic records, I discovered that this is literally what's happening. As the soul prepares to return home, it reviews the incarnation, integrating all lessons and experiences, making sure nothing significant is forgotten or left unprocessed. It's like a student reviewing their notes before the final exam, except the exam is the transition itself, and the soul wants to cross over with full awareness of what it accomplished. The key elements of life review dreams. First, they occur in sequence, not random memories, but chronological progression through your life. Second, they're unusually vivid and emotional. You wake up feeling like you actually relived those moments, not just remembered them. Third, they often include people who have already passed, as if the souls on the other side are helping you review and prepare for reunion. If you're having these dreams, it doesn't necessarily mean your time is immediate, but it does mean your soul is in preparation mode, ensuring that when transition comes, you'll cross over with full awareness of the beautiful journey you completed. Sign number 4, the detachment phase. The fourth sign shows up as a gradual but noticeable loss of interest in future plans, long-term projects, and things that used to matter deeply. Not depression, not giving up, but a gentle, peaceful withdrawal from future-oriented thinking. People in this phase might cancel subscriptions, stop making plans for next year, lose interest in starting new projects, or quietly step back from commitments that extend beyond a few months. Their loved ones often worry, "He's not planning for the future anymore. She doesn't seem excited about anything long-term." But what looks like depression from the outside is often peaceful acceptance from the inside. The soul knows that long-term plans aren't relevant anymore, and rather than forcing interest in a future it won't experience in physical form, it focuses on the present moment with unusual intensity and appreciation. The key elements of the detachment phase. First, it's peaceful, not distressed. People aren't upset about withdrawing from future plans, they simply aren't interested anymore. Second, present moment focus intensifies. They become more appreciative of daily experiences, simple pleasures, and time with loved ones right now. Third, material concerns fade. Possessions, status, achievements matter less. Relationships and meaning matter more. This phase is actually a gift. It allows people to live their final months fully present, not distracted by futures that won't arrive, but deeply engaged with the life they have right now. Sign number 5, the peace. Knowing the fifth and final sign is perhaps the most mysterious, an unexplainable sense of peace, acceptance, and readiness that has no medical or logical basis. People experiencing this describe it as a deep, calm knowing that everything is exactly as it should be, that their time here is completing, and that what comes next is not frightening but natural and right. Even people who were previously afraid of death report this peace, arriving and replacing all fear with serene acceptance. This isn't resignation or giving up. It's alignment, the conscious self finally hearing what the soul has known all along. Your work here is nearly done, and you've done it well. In 1934, I witnessed this with Robert, the man I mentioned earlier. In his final weeks, everyone around him commented on his extraordinary peace. He radiated calm acceptance. He told his wife, "I'm not afraid, I feel ready, I feel complete." That peace was his soul's final gift, the knowing that he'd lived his purpose, loved fully, and was approaching a natural transition point with grace. The key elements of the peace. Knowing. First, it arrives unexpectedly. People who were anxious about death suddenly feel calm for no apparent reason. Second, it's unshakable. Even when others are worried or upset, the person experiencing it remains peacefully certain. Third, it often comes with gratitude, a deep appreciation for the life lived and acceptance of the transition approaching. If someone you love suddenly seems at peace with death, even when there's no medical reason to expect it, don't try to talk them out of it. They're not giving up, they're receiving their soul's final blessing. Subscribe to this channel if you're ready to understand death not as an enemy, but as a sacred completion that your soul navigates with wisdom and grace. Now let me share something that brings profound comfort. Having an internal soul clock doesn't doom you to a specific death date with no possibility of change. Remember when I said most souls establish 3 to 5 exit points? Here's what that means. Your soul creates options, not mandates. Think of it like this. You book several possible flights home, spread throughout your lifetime. When you approach the first exit point, your soul begins the countdown. But if at that point your work isn't complete, if there are lessons you haven't learned or purposes you haven't fulfilled, your soul can choose to stay. The alarm turns off. The countdown pauses, and life continues until the next exit point approaches. Through thousands of readings, I saw people whose internal clocks activated, who began showing all 5 signs, but then something shifted. An important relationship healed, a crucial purpose revealed itself, A lesson suddenly made sense, and they received an extension. The signs faded, the urgency lifted. They lived years or decades longer. This means the internal clock isn't a death sentence, it's a check-in. Your soul asking, is my work here complete? Am I ready to return home? Or is there more to do? If the answer is more to do, the clock resets and you continue. But if the answer is yes, I'm complete, then the 5 signs aren't tragedy. They're mercy. They're your soul's gift of time to finish with grace, rather than being caught unprepared. So why do only 5% of people consciously hear their soul's countdown? It's not that 95% don't receive the signal. Everyone does, but most people live in such constant mental noise, worry, distraction, endless planning, fear, that they can't hear their soul's quiet voice. The 5% who hear it clearly share common traits. They're people who've developed some level of inner stillness, who listen to intuition, who pay attention to dreams and internal knowing, who trust themselves even when they can't explain why they know something. You don't need to be psychic or spiritually advanced. You just need to be willing to listen when something inside you speaks, even if it sounds impossible. The good news? You can develop this capacity. You can learn to hear your soul's voice more clearly, not just for the final countdown, but for all the guidance it offers throughout your life. Let me give you something practical, not to prepare for death, but to live more fully right now. If you've been experiencing any of the 5 signs recently, or if someone you love is showing them, don't panic. Instead, do this exercise. Get paper and pen. Write at the top, things I need to resolve before I depart. Now write everything that comes to mind, relationships to heal, words to say, projects to complete, experiences to have. Don't filter, just write. When your list is complete, ask yourself this question. If I truly had only 6 months left, what would I change today? Write that answer. Here's the profound truth. Whether your soul's alarm has activated or not, whether you have 6 months or 60 years, that answer reveals what you should be doing right now. The internal clock's purpose isn't just to warn of death, it's to remind you to live authentically, to love openly, to complete what matters before time runs out. Too many people live as if they have forever, postponing what truly matters, assuming there will always be tomorrow. The soul's internal clock, whether it's counting down or not, asks the same question of everyone. Are you living the life you want to have lived? If the answer is no, you don't need to wait for an alarm. You can start living that way today. I want to leave you with something that has brought comfort to countless families who've watched loved ones experience these signs. When someone begins showing the 5 signs of their soul's countdown, they're not dying tragically or prematurely. They're completing a journey with awareness, grace, and intention. The alternative, sudden death with no preparation, no goodbyes, no completion, is far more difficult for everyone involved. The internal clock is mercy, it's love, it's your soul's final act of care for you and everyone you love, giving you time to finish well. I've witnessed the difference between people who died suddenly, leaving chaos and unfinished business, and people who heard their internal alarm and responded with grace. The second group crossed over peacefully, leaving behind grateful families who had time to say goodbye, complete relationships, and witness death not as tragedy, but as natural completion. Having an internal soul clock isn't a curse that tells you when you'll die, it's a gift that ensures you live completely before you depart. Every moment becomes more precious, every word becomes more intentional, every relationship becomes more honest. People living with activated soul clocks often report that their final months were the most meaningful of their entire lives, not despite knowing their time was limited, but because of it. Here's the transformative truth for everyone, whether you're hearing the countdown or not. Living with soul clock awareness means you stop postponing important conversations. You have them now. You stop waiting for someday to do what matters. You do it today. You stop taking people for granted. You love them fully while they're here. the choice available to you right now. You can fear death and avoid thinking about it, guaranteeing that when it comes, you'll be unprepared and regretful. Or you can befriend your internal clock, living each day as if your soul already knows what you don't yet, that time here is precious, temporary, and meant to be fully experienced. Subscribe if you want more profound truths about death, soul wisdom, and living with the kind of awareness that transforms every moment. Comment below. The one thing I would complete if I knew my clock was counting down is, let's inspire each other to live intentionally. Like this video if it brought you peace about death instead of fear. That shift is what this channel exists to create. Share with someone who's afraid of death, or someone showing these signs who needs to understand they're not alone. Your soul has been counting since you were born, not down to doom, but up toward completion. Every year is another year of experiences gathered, lessons learned, love given and received. When the final countdown begins, it won't be darkness. It will be your soul saying, "Well done, you've completed what you came here to do. Now it's time to come home." And if you listen closely enough, you'll hear it with peace instead of fear. I'm Edgar Cayce. For 40 years, I've helped people understand that death isn't the end. It's a transition your soul navigates with wisdom you can't yet imagine. Trust your internal clock. It knows the way home. And until it's time, live fully, love deeply, complete what matters. Your soul is counting on you.